Hey guys, Joe here, the man who always goes bowling with his cousin Roman, and I'm here to recap UFC Fight Night, Hill versus Santos, which is, it's basically a tough finale in its own little way, but enough talk. I'm Joe with the INC, and let's get to the fights. And in the main event, we had Thiago Santos versus Jamahal Hill. And I thought this was kind of a cool matchup because, like, Santos he used to be like this super volatile killer, but then he had an injury in the John Jones fight. If you remember that guy, ancient history of that man. And Jamahal Hill, on the other hand, he's been looking great ever since he suffered his first career loss to Paul Craig in one of the grossest submissions ever. First round, slow. Santos is kicking, just trying to chop at the legs. And like there was some clinching here and there, but like near the end of the round, they started really throwing, and I thought Santos had the edge. I thought like he had all his power in there. And then the second round though, none of that. Just a wow from the get go. Like a really good body kick from Santos lands, and he tries to go in for this double leg, but he couldn't get it, and so to kind of reset. They kind of reset after the failed double leg attempt. And to quote Thiago Santos' corner after the second round. It was just a bar fight. They just were swinging for the fences, and they both were landing big shots. It was outrageous. And I'm going to give Hill the advantage because I thought his jab looked good. He's a southpaw boxer, typically. I thought his jab looked really good, and he was landing the cleaner shots. So as much as they were brawling, he was still jabbing to get inside. And then once he did get inside, that's when Santos would just throw bombs, and so was he. It was fantastic. It was great. In third round, Santos has definitely listened to his corner. He just adamantly going for the takedown constantly this whole fight, or this whole round, excuse me. And Hill just couldn't get Santos off of him. But to his credit, anytime he was like held against the cage and he did plop him to the mat, he just popped up instantly. And Bisping, I mentioned this in a video recently. I think it was just the other day when I recorded it. But Bisping is, in my opinion, the best commentator in the business. So I was sitting there going, oh, like, it's looking like he's gassing. Like, and this is he's wrestling. He looked really tired at the end. Santos did, specifically. Looked very tired at the end of the second round. And now he's wrestling. Oh, that's just going to wear you out. Like, trying to wrestle, trying to do that will wear your opponent out if you're successful. But he hasn't necessarily been super successful. Like, he isn't like Khabib Nurmagomedov style, holding him down, just beating him down. He's like laying against the cage, trying to get these double A's, using a lot of energy to get it, and then he'll just pops back up. So, yeah, and Bisping called it out like just instantly. As soon as I was thinking it, he called it out, and which is great because, in my opinion, most commentators, except for like Paul Felder and the man I really miss, Dan Hardy, probably wouldn't call it out for that. Nowadays. That's just me, though. I want to toss that in there. Give Bisping some credit. I think he's fantastic. But in the fourth round, Hill's able to use his jab really well just to get in, and he's landing some nice big shots. And anytime he actually hurts Santos is just throwing these big old kitchen sink haymaker hooks, and it's crazy because Hill doesn't care, and he just keeps throwing his own shots back. And they are landing almost at will at each other, just constantly. It is crazy. And eventually just Santos just kind of falls to the floor after once they clinch up, and Hill's just still putting the pressure on. And it could have been from exhaustion, it could have been from the punishment, but on the ground, and Hill just mauls him, and Santos is trying to get away, but he'll take just a beating for 15 seconds, and then he'll move a position, takes another beating for 15 seconds. And then at this point, Herb Dean's alarm clock went off, and he woke him up, and he called the fight off. But it was a super good fight. I really liked it. And I'm continuing to be impressed with Hill. I wasn't a fan of his originally, I'm willing to admit. But after the Johnny Walker win, I've kind of looked at his whole career again, and I went, honestly, what's not to like? The guy's relatively cool. I haven't seen anything where he's not a negative personality. There's, how do you justify that? But he doesn't rub me the wrong way personality wise. He's got a great style. It's really cool. I don't understand why I wasn't a fan of his, because I'm starting to come around. Honestly, I think he's great, and he's an absolute blast to watch. And speaking of blast to watch, our co-main event is Vicente Luque and Jeff Neal. Big Vicente Luque fan. I like Jeff Neal a lot too, and I don't just like him because we share the same last name. We could be family, and I don't like him just because of that. Out the gate, both dudes are just kind of throwing. A lot of kicks, really. But Jeff Neal just seems to be, I'm going to call him Jeff. Neal sounds weird because it's my last name. But Jeff just seems to be cleaner and hitting harder. But Luque's putting the pressure forward with great footwork. Suddenly this left hand just comes right down the middle, clobbers Luque. Doesn't knock him down, but he goes flying across the cage. And the shift of momentum is very clear because it was kind of here, or maybe even dead in the middle, and it's definitely in Neal's favor, Jeff's favor. And he is just, at this point, he couldn't get the finish, so he just starts letting Luque walk in and just blast him with counters. And he rocks him multiple times, and he ends up knocking him down at one point and tries to go for the finish. And that is a 10-8 round for Jeff Neal. Kind of insane. Second round, closer. Luque's landing some good snap kicks, but Jeff is still just landing like these better shots, and he even got a brief takedown for a minute. He kind of abandoned the left straight a little bit, but that's okay because he was still, I thought, doing well with his lead right hand, attack. And Luque, is down 2-0, and he kind of needs a finish, and he hasn't been moving his head the whole fight. I'm gonna mention it later on, but it's something, you kind of see what I'm saying. And because in the final round, Luque's not moving his head still. Jeff Neal goes back to the left hands and wobbles him hard. This time he swarms, gets the stoppage, and Luque face plants. And what I want to say is, I don't. Luque didn't look himself tonight, but that's all I'm going to say, and I'm only going to say it once because I don't want to take anything. I don't want to take anything away from Jeff Neal's performance. It's really easy for a guy who looks like a world beater to not show up one night, kind of thing, and then his opponent beats him, and we go, well, that doesn't really count. Let's take away his performance. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that to Jeff Neal because that's not fair to him. He showed up, he had a great game plan, he put in the work, he crushed it. Who knows? Luque could have shown up tonight, and Jeff Neal just has him down. And I'm happy for him because Jeff Neal had a ton of hype going into the Wonderboy fight, and he just had a bad game plan. It was just like, let's headhunt the guy who, when kicking him in the legs and the body would work wonderfully. I'm just gonna headhunt. Yeah, no. And then Magny just outworked him, and that's just the Neal Magny way, and that's just how it is sometimes. And but this win is huge. I think he's gonna snatch a bunch of momentum off this, and maybe if he keeps building on this momentum, we can see him get another huge fight. That sounds fun to me. And finally, I have to talk about Sam Alvey's fight with Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I hope I said that right. So, Sam Alvey hasn't won a fight in the UFC in I think 2018, so a little under 4 years, a little over 4 years maybe, give or take. And that's 8 fights, winless. Think about that for a second. 8 fights, winless. And it wasn't like he got cut from the UFC and went to the regional scenes and just kept losing. It wasn't like a Sean Salmon kind of thing. It was, he lost and kept fighting in the UFC and kept losing when they're cutting all these other people that are losing 1 or 2 fights. Guy, Brandon Moreno, I always bring up, lost to Alexandre Pantoja and Sergio Pettis right before, and they cut him. He had to come back to the UFC. This guy's still fighting in the UFC. Why is that? Well, I have one theory to this baffling enigma. I guess it's an enigma to me. I guess that's the only way to say it. they keep him around because he is loudly and proudly anti-union. I don't think the UFC likes the idea of being put in a situation where they could be forced to pay fighters what they deserve, and they're happy with Sam Alvey going out there telling them they should be happy with the peanuts they're being given. So, enough of that mess. Here's the fight. Oleksiejczuk is just coming out spamming overhand lefts. One lands, Alvey plummets, hits the ground. There's some ground and pound, hard ground and pound. Alvey gets up and escapes. He is a bloody mess. Another big overhand lands, and it is a KO. 9 straight winless fights. And I can't believe it. I can't believe the UFC had to go on this long. And I gotta think it's just time for them to stop offering him fights. They gotta find another guy to be anti-union that isn't DC. For the rest of the card, I want to say congratulations to Muhammad Usman and Juliana Miller, who became tough champs at this event. Like I said, it was a tough finale, basically. Usman won in the second round with a pretty awesome knockout. I thought it was a jab when I first saw it, but it was like a short left hook. It was great. And Miller won with a third round TKO, with just some nasty ground and pound after just dominating the whole fight in the grappling. And I thought she looked better in the striking, too. Augusto Sakai moves to 4 straight losses, all by stoppage, after losing a second round TKO to Sergey Spivak. And kind of crazy, this guy was top 10 at one point, gets finished in the 5th round by Overeem when Overeem was making that last big run for the title. And then after that, it's all losses by stoppages. Granted, after Overeem, it was, Tai Tuivasa and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And say what you want about Rozenstruik, he's a top 10 guy, technically. And Tai Tuivasa's on a crazy run. So, is it the competition or is it him? I don't know. I think he lost his last chance of staying in the UFC. Terrence McKinney, big prospect, gets another first round stoppage. Standing rear naked choke this time against Eric Gonzalez. Brian Battle should have been on the main card. Don't know why he wasn't. Super disrespectful, I thought, because this guy's insane. Gets a crazy head kick finish over Takashi Sato. And finally, I had to bring this up. Stephanie Egger tapped to an armbar, denied it happened, and the ref had to go and ask anyone, and a judge finally said, no, she did tap, I swear. Super weird and kind of scummy of Stephanie Egger, in my opinion, to do that. But that's it for this weekend. And be sure to check out next weekend as I'll recap Chito Vera and Dominic Cruz. That sounds awesome to me. And also on Friday, we got a fighter interview on the channel. Carl's got a fighter interview lined up, and I'm super excited to see. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, of course, if you want to see all this content and keep seeing my pretty face. And I'm Joe with the INC. Thank you for watching.